I never imagined that a simple text message could make the turkey baster slip from my hands the way it did that Christmas Eve morning. The words glowed on my screen like a warning flare, cold and final. Mom, change of plans. Lillian's parents invited us to their ski resort in Aspen for Christmas. We're at the airport now. Sorry for the last-minute notice. Merry Christmas. I stood there in my kitchen, surrounded by the smell of herbs and butter, staring at those words until they blurred. My fingers hovered over the keyboard, trembling slightly. I wanted to type so many things. I wanted to ask why he couldn't have told me yesterday, or the day before, or any of the 7 days I'd spent preparing this meal. I wanted to ask if he remembered this was our first Christmas without his father. I wanted to ask if 5 years of widowhood had somehow made me invisible. But instead I typed just 4 words. It's okay, honey. Have fun. The lie tasted bitter even as I sent it. I waited. 1 minute, 2, 5. The little read notification appeared, but no reply came. Just silence wrapping around me like the winter cold seeping through the windows. Around me, the kitchen looked like a Norman Rockwell painting of holiday preparation. The 22-pound turkey I'd special ordered sat thawing in the sink. 3 kinds of potatoes mashed roasted and au gratin, because Gavin loved variety, were lined up on the counter. The cranberry sauce I'd made from scratch using my late husband Richard's mother's recipe cooled in a crystal bowl. The dining table visible through the doorway was already set for 3 with the good china, the ones with the tiny gold rim that caught the light from the Christmas tree. That tree. I decorated it myself 2 weeks ago, hanging each ornament with care. The little wooden train Gavin got when he was 3. The handmade angel from his kindergarten class. The crystal star Richard and I bought on our honeymoon in Vermont. Each one a memory, each one proof of a family that had existed that I thought still existed. I walked to the table and picked up the 3rd place setting. The plate felt heavy in my hands, heavier than it should have been. I carried it back to the kitchen, wrapped it carefully in newspaper, and placed it in the cabinet. Then the 2nd plate. Then the 1st. The table looked better empty anyway, more honest. I should have seen it coming. That's what I kept telling myself as I mechanically covered the food with plastic wrap, storing away a Christmas dinner that would never be eaten. I should have seen the signs, the slow erosion of the relationship I thought was unshakable. It started, I suppose, when Richard died. No, that's not quite right. It started before that, but Richard's death made it visible, made it real. Gavin was always a good son, thoughtful, kind. The type of boy who remembered Mother's Day without prompting and called just to chat on Sunday afternoons. When he brought Lillian home 5 years ago, I was thrilled. She was beautiful, polished, ambitious, everything I'd never been. A marketing executive with a master's degree and a wardrobe that cost more than my car. I thought she was perfect for him. You raised an amazing man. Lillian told me that first Thanksgiving, squeezing my hand across the table. Her engagement ring, modest by her standards, I'd later learn, caught the candlelight. I can't wait to be part of this family. And I believed her. God, how I believed her. When Richard died suddenly of a heart attack 2 months later, it was Lillian who suggested Gavin and I make some smart financial decisions together. She worked in marketing, sure, but she knew people in finance and real estate, in estate planning. She had connections, ideas, solutions. I was drowning in grief, barely able to sign the papers the funeral home kept pushing at me, and she was there with a pen and a sympathetic smile. You shouldn't be alone in that big house, she said one evening 6 months after the funeral. We were sitting in my living room, the same living room where Richard and I had slow danced on New Year's Eve, where Gavin had opened his Christmas presents for 32 years, where every wall held a memory I couldn't bear to leave. I'm fine here, I'd said. Richard and I built this home together. Of course, Lillian's voice was honey-smooth practiced. But wouldn't it be better to have Gavin closer? What if something happened to you? What if you fell or got sick? Gavin nodded along his face, creased with concern. Mom, we worry about you. All the time. That's how it started. The slow, gentle pressure. Not a demand, never a demand. Just worry. Just love. Just caring. 3 months later, they got married. A small ceremony, intimate, Lillian called it, at a boutique hotel downtown. I paid for it, of course. $28,000 for 75 guests. Lillian said her parents were going through a rough patch financially, and I couldn't bear the thought of my son's wedding being anything less than perfect. A month after that, they started talking about buying a house. Starting our life together properly, Gavin said. They'd been apartment hunting, he explained, but everything in a decent neighborhood was so expensive. Student loans were crushing them. Lillian's job was demanding, but didn't pay as much as people thought. They were struggling. I thought about the house Richard and I had scrimped and saved for. The overtime shifts I'd worked as a nurse, the vacations we'd skipped the car we'd driven until it literally wouldn't start anymore. We'd made sacrifices and we'd made it work. I wanted that for Gavin. That security. That foundation. What if I helped? I heard myself saying. Gavin's eyes lit up. Mom, we couldn't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Lillian leaned forward, her perfectly manicured hand covering mine. Carol, that's incredibly generous, but it's too much. It's not too much for my son, for my family. 2 weeks later, I was sitting in a real estate office signing papers that transferred $450,000, most of my retirement savings, the money Richard and I had built over 30 years, into an escrow account. The house was beautiful. 4 bedrooms, 3 baths, a gourmet kitchen with marble countertops, a backyard perfect for the grandchildren I assumed would eventually come. You'll always have a room here, Lillian had said at the housewarming party, her eyes glassy with what I thought were tears of gratitude. You know that, right? This is your home too. I'd believed that too. The changes came slowly, like the tide going out. You don't notice each wave pulling back until suddenly you're standing on dry sand, wondering when the water disappeared. The first few months were lovely. I was invited to Sunday dinners. I helped Lillian pick out curtains, soft lavender for the master bedroom, because she said it calmed her. I spent 3 weekends painting the guest room, the one that was supposed to be mine whenever I wanted to stay over. I assembled furniture, hung pictures, even planted rose bushes in the front yard, because Lillian mentioned they were her favorite. But then the dinners became every other Sunday, then once a month. Then we're so busy with work, Mom, you understand. Phone calls got shorter. Can't talk now, in a meeting. Catch you later, Mom. Everything's fine, just tired. I told myself it was natural. They were newlyweds building their life. They needed space. I had to respect that. But there were other things too. Small things that piled up like snow, each flake weightless until suddenly you're buried. Like the time I showed up with groceries, they'd mentioned being too busy to shop and found the door locked. Not just locked, but changed. New locks I didn't have keys to. Oh, Lillian had said when I called, her voice distant. Security upgrade. The neighborhood had some break-ins. We should have told you. She never offered to give me a new key. Or the Mother's Day when Gavin posted a photo on Facebook. Him and Lillian at brunch with her parents. Captioned, celebrating the moms in our lives. I'd spent that Mother's Day alone, staring at my phone, wondering if I'd done something wrong. Wondering if I'd been forgotten or dismissed. When I gently asked Gavin about it later, he'd seemed genuinely confused. Mom, I texted you Happy Mother's Day. Remember? He had. At 9:47 a.m., 3 words, Happy Mother's Day. No phone call, no visit. Just 3 words that felt more like a checkbox than a sentiment. The financial requests continued, though. Those never faded. Mom, the property taxes are higher than we thought. Could you help us out this one time? Mom, the AC unit died and it's going to cost $8,000 to replace. I know it's a lot to ask. Mom, Lillian's getting a promotion, but she needs to completely upgrade her wardrobe to match the position. Professional clothes are so expensive. Each time I said yes. Each time I told myself this was what family did. This was love. This was being a good mother. I started working extra shifts at the clinic where I'd been semi-retired, returning to full-time at 58 years old, my feet aching and my back screaming by the end of each day. But it was worth it, I told myself. For Gavin. For their future. For the grandchildren who would eventually come. Except the grandchildren never came. And increasingly neither did my son. Which brings me back to that Christmas Eve. To that text message. To the moment I decided to surprise them anyway. I'd spent too much time preparing this meal to let it go to waste. I'd bought gifts, a handmade cashmere scarf for Lillian that had cost me 2 weeks of grocery money, and Richard's father's vintage watch for Gavin, a family heirloom I'd been saving for this exact Christmas. They were already wrapped, sitting by my front door with ribbons and tags written in my careful handwriting. So I made a decision. I would drop the gifts by their house. Leave them on the porch with a note. A little Christmas surprise to find when they got back from their trip. A reminder that even though they'd forgotten about me, I hadn't forgotten about them. I loaded everything into my car, the gifts a container of cookies I'd baked a poinsettia plant, and drove the 15 minutes to their house. Their house. The one I'd bought. The one where I'd spent so many weekends laboring with love, making it perfect for them. It was 7:14 p.m. when I pulled up to the curb, and that's when I saw them. Every light in the house was on. The windows glowed warm and golden against the winter darkness, and through those windows I could see people. Lots of people. I sat in my car engine idling, staring. There was a Christmas tree bigger and more elaborate than mine, draped in white lights and silver ornaments. There was garland wrapped around the staircase railing. There were people holding wine glasses, laughing. I could hear music, Christmas music, floating out every time someone opened the front door. And there, through the large bay window of the living room, I saw him. Gavin. He was wearing the sweater I'd given him last Christmas, the one he said was his favorite. He was holding a champagne flute, his head thrown back in laughter at something someone had said. Beside him stood Lillian in a red cocktail dress I'd never seen before, her arm linked through his, radiant and perfect. My hands gripped the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. They weren't in Aspen. They'd never been going to Aspen. There was a party, a Christmas party, right here, in the house I'd bought them, and I hadn't been invited. I sat there for I don't know how long, watching through that window, like I was watching a movie about someone else's life. I watched Lillian's parents arrive. I recognized them from the wedding photos. I watched a group of young couples, probably their friends, trail in carrying bottles of wine and platters of food. I watched Gavin's college roommate show up with his girlfriend. The house filled with people, with family, with friends, with everyone except me. I reached for my phone, my hands shaking now. I scrolled back through our text conversation. Just that one message. We're at the airport now. My throat tightened. My eyes burned. But the tears didn't come. Something else did. Something colder. Something that felt almost like clarity. I looked down at the gifts in my passenger seat. The scarf, the watch, the cookies, the poinsettia. All these tokens of love for people who had just lied to my face on Christmas Eve. Slowly, carefully, I picked up the gift bag containing the watch. Richard's father's watch. A family heirloom. I held it for a moment, feeling its weight. Then I set it back down. Not on their porch. In my car, where it belonged. With family who actually wanted it. I put the car in drive and pulled away from the curb, leaving nothing behind. Not even a note. In my rearview mirror, I watched the lights of that house, my house, the one I'd paid for, fade into the distance. And with it, something else faded too. Some old version of myself. The version who believed that love meant sacrifice without limit. The version who thought being needed was the same as being valued. That version died on a silent, snowy Christmas Eve, sitting alone in a car while her son lied and laughed inside a house built with her money. I didn't sleep that night. How could I? I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying everything. Every conversation, every request for money, every canceled plan, every "I'm too busy, Mom." All of it took on a different color now, a different meaning. Had they always been lying? Or had this been a gradual thing, a slow poisoning of our relationship that neither of us noticed until it was too late? At 3:17 a.m., I got up and made tea. The house was dark except for the lights on the Christmas tree still twinkling away like nothing had changed, like the world hadn't shifted under my feet. I sat at my kitchen table and did something I should have done months ago. I opened my laptop. My hands were shaking as I typed in the password to my bank account. It took me 3 tries. I kept hitting the wrong keys, my fingers clumsy with exhaustion and something that felt like dread. The home page loaded. Balance $47,823. That seemed right. I'd been careful, especially after putting so much into the house. But then I clicked into the transaction history, and my stomach dropped. Small withdrawals. Dozens of them. Each one labeled innocuously home maintenance, property repair, emergency expenses. 200 here, 500 there, 750s, 1,200. I scrolled back, and back, and back. They went back 8 months, maybe longer. Small enough that I hadn't noticed. Small enough that they'd slipped under my radar while I was busy working extra shifts and convincing myself everything was fine. My chest felt tight. I clicked on account settings. Secondary authorized users. Lillian Marie Harper, added, March 17th. March. That was 2 months after Richard died, when I'd been barely functional, drowning in grief, signing whatever papers Lillian put in front of me with her sympathetic smile and her helpful suggestions. "Just routine paperwork," she'd said, "for the house tax benefits. Makes it easier to manage expenses." I'd signed it. Of course I'd signed it. Why wouldn't I trust my son's wife? Why wouldn't I trust my family? I opened my email, typed Lillian into the search bar. Dozens of messages, most from stores I'd never shopped at. Confirmations for purchases I'd never made. A receipt from Tiffany & Co. for $1,400. A confirmation from a luxury travel site for a week-long trip to Turks and Caicos, $8,300. My heart was pounding now, blood rushing in my ears. I clicked on my savings account, the one Richard and I had been building for 40 years, our emergency fund, our something might happen money. Balance $12,400. It should have been over $80,000. I couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. I gripped the edge of the table, trying to steady myself. Where had it gone? Where had $70,000 gone? My phone was in my hand before I realized I'd picked it up. I was dialing before I thought about what time it was. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Then Gavin's voice, groggy and irritated. "Mom, it's 5 in the morning. You're not in Aspen." My voice came out flat, emotionless. Silence. "What? You're not in Aspen, Gavin. I know because I drove by the house last night to drop off gifts. I saw the party. I saw everything." I heard rustling movement. Lillian's voice in the background. "Who is it, Mom? He paused. "Look, it wasn't like that." "Then what was it like?" "Lillian thought we thought it would be better to have our own Christmas this year. Just us. You always talk about how you don't like crowds, and we had so many friends who wanted to—" "Stop." The word came out sharper than I intended. "Just stop, Gavin. Mom, I want to talk about my bank accounts and the $70,000 that disappeared from my savings." The silence that followed was different, heavier, guilty. "Mom, those were approved expenses. For the house, for repairs, and I never approved anything. But that's not really the point, is it? The point is that you and Lillian have been taking money from me for months. Small amounts. Steady, like you thought I wouldn't notice. We were going to pay you back. When?" My voice cracked. "When were you going to pay me back, Gavin, after you took everything?" "That's not fair. You gave us that house. You offered. You wanted to help us." "I did want to help you. I wanted to help my son. I didn't realize I was funding your lifestyle while you lied to me and shut me out of your life." I heard Lillian's voice again, closer now. "Let me talk to her." "No," Gavin said. "Just Mom, we can talk about this after Christmas, when everyone's calmer." "I am calm, Gavin." And I was, eerily, coldly calm. "I'm calm because I finally understand. You don't want a mother. You want a bank account that occasionally sends text messages." "Mom, that's not the house," I said. "The one I bought for you. Is it in your name or both of your names?" "What does that matter? Is it in your name or both?" "Both. Lillian and I are both on the deed." "Why?" "Because I need to know who I'm dealing with. And Gavin?" I paused. "That transfer, the final paperwork, I never signed it. Not completely. There are still steps that need my authorization." This was a lie. A complete lie. The house was legally theirs, but his reaction would tell me everything I needed to know. "What? No, that's Mom, you can't—" There it was. Not concern for me, not confusion. Fear. Fear of losing what he thought he owned. In the background, I heard Lillian clearly now. What did she say?" "We'll talk about this later," I said quietly. "Merry Christmas, Gavin." I hung up before he could respond. My phone immediately started ringing. I turned it off. The house was quiet again. The Christmas tree lights blinked their rhythm. The turkey still sat in the refrigerator uncooked. The table stayed empty. But for the first time in a year, maybe in 5 years, maybe longer, I felt something other than sadness. I felt angry. I waited until 8 a.m. to call Diane. I would have waited longer, but I knew she'd be up. Diane was always up by 6, walking her golden retriever through the neighborhood regardless of weather. The phone rang twice before she picked up. "Caitlin," her voice was alert, concerned. She knew me well enough to know I wouldn't call this early on Christmas morning unless something was wrong. "What happened?" "Can you come over?" "I'm 5 minutes away." She was at my door in 4. Diane Murphy had been my closest friend for 30 years. We'd met when our sons were in kindergarten together, bonding over terrible school cafeteria coffee and the chaos of young motherhood. We'd seen each other through everything: divorces, hers deaths, mine career changes, health scares, the full catastrophe of life. She took one look at my face and pulled me into a hug. "Kitchen," I said when she released me. "I need coffee for this." We sat at my kitchen table, the same table where Richard and I had paid bills and planned vacations and made every major decision of our married life. I told her everything. The text, the party, the bank accounts, the phone call with Gavin. Diane listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each revelation. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "I need to tell you something," she finally said. "And I should have told you sooner. I'm sorry I didn't." My stomach clenched. "What?" 3 months ago, I saw Lillian at Cartier, the jewelry store downtown. I waited. She was with a sales associate looking at diamond bracelets. And I mean looking, she tried on at least 5. Eventually, she picked one. $15,000, Caitlin. I know because I heard her tell the clerk to charge it to the account ending in 4739. My credit card ended in 4739. "I thought maybe it was a gift for you," Diane continued. "Maybe for your birthday. So I didn't say anything. But then your birthday came and went and—" She trailed off. She never gave me any bracelet. "No," Diane said quietly. "I didn't think she had." She reached across the table and took my hand. "There's more. 2 months ago, I ran into Gavin at the hardware store. We chatted for a bit, and then he started asking me questions. Casual sounding, but specific. About estate planning. About what happens when someone becomes, in his words, legally incompetent. The words hit like a slap. He asked about memory care facilities, about how someone would go about getting guardianship or conservatorship over a parent who couldn't manage their own affairs anymore. My mouth went dry. "But I'm fine. I know that. And I told him you were sharp as a tack. But he kept pushing. Said it was just hypothetical. That he and Lillian were planning for the future." The coffee turned to acid in my stomach. "Then last week," Diane continued, her voice dropping, "I got a LinkedIn message from a guy I went to college with who's now a lawyer specializing in elder law. He said someone had been asking around about getting conservatorship over a family member in their late 50s. A widow. No major health issues. He didn't say who was asking, but Caitlin. The description matched you. I felt like I was falling, the ground disappearing beneath me. They weren't just taking my money. They were planning to take my life." Diane stayed with me all Christmas Day. We didn't talk much after that initial conversation. We didn't need to. She made us lunch soup and sandwiches, simple and comforting, and we watched old movies, the kind that required no thinking. But my mind was racing. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw at a courtroom. A judge. Documents declaring me incompetent. Lillian and Gavin looking somber and concerned, playing the role of dutiful family members who just wanted to help poor confused mom. I saw myself locked in a nursing home. Not because I needed to be there. Not because I was sick or confused or unable to care for myself. But because it was convenient for them. Because I still had assets they wanted. Because a living, breathing mother with opinions and needs was harder to manage than one who'd been legally silenced. The thought made me physically ill. I excused myself twice to be sick in the bathroom. By the time Diane left at 8 that evening, promising to come back first thing in the morning, I'd made a decision. I walked to my bedroom and opened the top drawer of my dresser. Underneath old sweaters and forgotten scarves, I found the manila envelope I'd been avoiding for months. Richard's life insurance policy. The one I hadn't wanted to touch, because using it felt like admitting he was really gone. I opened it. $500,000. Still sitting there. Still waiting. I thought about what Richard would say if he were here. I could almost hear his voice, gruff and practical and full of love. "Caitlin, stop being a damn martyr. Protect yourself." He'd seen through Lillian from the beginning. Oh, he'd been polite about it. Richard was always polite. But after that first Thanksgiving, he'd pulled me aside in the kitchen. "There's something off about her," he'd said. "The way she looks at things, like she's calculating value." I'd defended her then. Told him he was being overprotective, that she was just confident, just ambitious. "Maybe," he'd said. "But watch your back, Katie, and watch our son's back too. Because I'm not sure she's watching anything but her own." He'd died 2 months later, never knowing how right he'd been. I placed the insurance papers on my bed and sat down beside them. Outside my window it had started to snow. Fat, lazy flakes drifting down in the streetlight's glow. Christmas snow. The kind that made everything look clean and new. My phone, which I'd finally turned back on, showed 17 missed calls from Gavin, 12 from Lillian, 3 voicemails I hadn't listened to. I didn't need to listen. I knew what they'd say. Explanations. Justifications. Maybe even apologies, though those would be calculated strategic. They'd try to make me feel crazy, try to convince me I was overreacting. They'd gaslight me the way they'd been doing for months, maybe years, but not anymore. I picked up my phone and dialed a different number, one I'd been given years ago but never used. It rang 3 times before a professional voice answered, "Whitmore and Associates, this is the answering service. How may I direct your call?" "I need to speak with Daniel Whitmore. It's urgent." "Mr. Whitmore is on vacation until January 2nd. Can someone else help you, or would you like to leave a message?" I almost hung up, almost convinced myself to wait to give it more thought, to not make any rash decisions. Then I remembered Lillian's hand on mine, so warm and sincere. "You'll always have a room here." I remembered Gavin's laugh through that window, so carefree while I sat alone in my car. I remembered the bank accounts, the stolen money, the questions about incompetency. "No," I said firmly. "I'll leave a message. Tell him Caitlin Brennan called. I need an attorney. For estate planning, asset protection, and. I paused, the words thick in my throat, and elder financial abuse. "It's regarding my son and daughter-in-law." There, I'd said it out loud. Made it real. "I'll make sure he gets the message first thing when he returns," the woman said kindly. "Is there a number where he can reach you?" I gave her my information and hung up. The house was quiet again. Just me and the Christmas tree and the ghost of the family I thought I had. I walked downstairs and stood in front of that tree looking at all those ornaments, all those memories. The wooden train from Gavin's childhood, the kindergarten angel, the crystal star from my honeymoon. Each one represented a version of my life that no longer existed. A version of Gavin who had loved me simply without calculation. A version of myself who had believed love was enough. Slowly, carefully, I began taking them down. Not to throw away, never that, but to pack away. To store somewhere safe, somewhere they couldn't be lost or stolen or used as leverage. I would protect these memories the way I hadn't protected myself. And tomorrow, December 26th, the day the world called Boxing Day, I would start protecting everything else. My money, my home, my life, my future. They'd bet everything on my silence, on my guilt, on my willingness to sacrifice myself for the illusion of family. But that version of me had died in a car on Christmas Eve, watching lights through a window, understanding too late that love without respect was just a prettier kind of prison. I was done being a prisoner. The last ornament I took down was a small silver frame containing a photo Richard and me on our wedding day, young and hopeful, and so certain we knew what the future held. I held it up to the light, looking at our faces. "I'm going to fix this," I whispered to his image. "I'm going to protect what we built. I promise." Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, a new story was beginning. One where I stopped being the footnote in someone else's narrative and became the author of my own ending. December 26th arrived gray and cold, the kind of morning where even the sunlight seemed reluctant to appear. I'd barely slept maybe 3 hours total, but I felt more awake than I had in years. Clarity I was learning didn't require rest. It required truth. I was dressed and sitting at my kitchen table by 6 a.m., my laptop open, a legal pad covered in notes beside me. I'd spent the hours between midnight and dawn doing research, reading about conservatorship laws, elder financial abuse statutes, power of attorney fraud. Every search term made my stomach turn, but I didn't stop. Knowledge was armor, and I needed every piece I could gather. At 7:15, my phone rang. Diane. "I'm coming over," she said without preamble. "Don't argue. I'm bringing breakfast, and I'm not leaving until we have a plan." "Diane, I can't ask you to—" "You're not asking. I'm telling. See you in 20 minutes. She arrived in 18, carrying a bag from the bagel shop and 2 large coffees. Behind her was someone I didn't expect, a woman in her mid-40s, professionally dressed even on the day after Christmas, carrying a leather briefcase. "Caitlin," Diane said, setting the food on my counter. "This is Sarah Mitchell. She's a private investigator I've worked with before back when I was doing accounting and we had suspected fraud cases. I called her last night. She agreed to come talk to you. No commitment, just a conversation. Sarah extended her hand. Her grip was firm, her eyes sharp and assessing but not unkind. Mrs. Brennan, Diane filled me in on the basics. I'm sorry you're going through this. I looked at Diane, then at Sarah, then at the briefcase that likely contained forms and contracts, and a future I wasn't sure I was ready for. I don't know if I can afford— Let's worry about that later, Sarah interrupted gently. Right now, let's just talk. May I sit? We settled around my kitchen table, the same table where I discovered the theft just 24 hours ago. Sarah pulled out a yellow legal pad. Apparently everyone used those for serious matters, and clicked her pen. Tell me everything, she said. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out, even if it seems small or embarrassing. So I did. I told her about Richard's death, about Lillian's helpful suggestions and the paperwork I'd signed while grief-drunk and desperate for someone to take charge, about the house I'd bought with my retirement savings, about the slow fade of phone calls and visits and invitations, about the party on Christmas Eve and the text message that had been a lie. And then I told her about the bank accounts. Sarah's pen never stopped moving. When I finished, she looked up. How much total do you estimate has been taken? At least $89,000, maybe more. I haven't checked everything yet. And the house you said you gave them $450,000? Yes, the full purchase price. Sarah wrote something down, underlined it twice. Mrs. Brennan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest with me. Have you been experiencing any memory issues? Any confusion, forgetfulness, anything that someone could potentially use to claim you're not competent? The question stung, but I understood why she had to ask. No, nothing. I work 3 days a week at a medical clinic. I manage all my own bills, my own medications, which is just blood pressure medication and a multivitamin. I grocery shop. I balance my own checkbook. I'm 58 years old and in perfect health. Good, Sarah made another note. That's going to be important. Diane mentioned that your son had been asking questions about conservatorship. According to Diane, yes, and about what happens when someone becomes legally incompetent. Sarah's expression darkened. That's a red flag, a big one. In my experience, when family members start researching conservatorship for a parent who's perfectly healthy, they're not planning for some distant future. They're planning for next month. My hands started to shake. I gripped my coffee cup to steady them. What would happen, I asked slowly, if they filed for conservatorship? What would that actually look like? Sarah leaned forward. First, they'd need to file a petition with the court claiming you're unable to care for yourself or manage your affairs. They'd need supporting documentation, usually medical reports, evidence of financial mismanagement testimony from people who've witnessed your supposed decline. But I haven't declined. There's nothing to witness. Which means they'd have to manufacture it. Sarah's voice was calm but firm. I've seen it before, Mrs. Brennan. More often than you'd think. They might take you to a doctor, one they've chosen, who asks leading questions designed to make you seem confused. They might claim you've been forgetting appointments, losing things, making irrational decisions. They might even stage incidents to create evidence. That's insane. It's fraud, Sarah corrected. And if it works, if a judge grants conservatorship, they'd have legal control over your finances, your medical care, where you live, everything. You'd essentially have no rights. They could put you in a facility, sell your house, drain your accounts, all perfectly legally. The room tilted slightly. Diane reached over and squeezed my hand. But we're not going to let that happen, Sarah continued, because you called me now before they filed anything, which means we have time to build a defense. Better yet, we have time to go on offense. What do you mean? Sarah flipped to a fresh page. I mean, we document everything they've done, every unauthorized transaction, every forged signature, every lie. We build a case that shows a clear pattern of financial exploitation, and then when they try to claim you're incompetent, we have proof that they're the criminals, not you. She paused, letting that sink in. But I need your permission to investigate. I'll need access to your bank records, your email, any documentation you have about the house purchase and subsequent transactions. I'll look into their finances too, public records, social media, anything that might show how they've been spending your money. This won't be quick, and it won't be cheap. But if we do this right, we don't just stop them. We make sure they can never try this again. I thought about Gavin, my son, The boy I'd rocked to sleep and taught to ride a bike and sent off to college with tears in my eyes. I thought about bringing lawyers and investigators into his life, about potentially destroying his marriage, his reputation, maybe even his freedom. Then I thought about that party, about his laughter while I sat alone in my car, about the money disappearing from accounts while he asked me for more, about the questions regarding my competency, about the nursing home brochure I'd found in my spam folder this morning, the one Diane had mentioned, the one I'd searched for after she left. Sunrise Meadows Memory Care, a reservation for February 1st, in my name, that I'd never made. Do it, I said. Whatever it takes, do it. Sarah moved fast. By noon on December 26th, I'd signed a contract and given her access to everything: bank statements, emails, the deed to the house, every scrap of paper I could find related to Gavin and Lillian's finances. I'll have preliminary results in 48 hours, she said as she packed up her briefcase. In the meantime, don't respond to any calls or texts from them. Don't meet with them. Don't engage. Everything they say can and will be twisted to support their narrative that you're unstable or confused. What if Gavin shows up at my door? Tell him you're not feeling well and you'll talk after New Year's. Keep it vague. If he pushes, tell him your lawyer advised you not to discuss anything right now. I don't have a lawyer yet. You will by tomorrow. I'm going to call Daniel Whitmore myself and explain the urgency. Trust me, he'll see you before his vacation is officially over. After Sarah left, Diane stayed. We didn't talk much. She made me eat half a bagel. I hadn't realized I was hungry until the food was in front of me, and then she did my dishes while I stared at my phone. 17 new text messages from Gavin, 6 from Lillian. I didn't open any of them. Good, Diane said, watching me set the phone face down on the counter. Let them stew. Let them wonder what you're thinking. They probably think I'm just upset, that I'll cool down and everything will go back to normal. Then they're stupider than they look. Diane dried her hands and turned to face me. Caitlin, I need you to promise me something. What else? Promise me you won't back down. I've known you for 30 years and I've watched you sacrifice and sacrifice and sacrifice. I've watched you make yourself smaller to make other people comfortable. And I love that about you, your generosity, your kindness. But right now you need to be selfish. You need to fight. Can you do that? I looked at my friend, this woman who'd been there through everything, who'd never asked me for money or favors beyond the normal give and take of friendship, who'd shown up this morning without being asked because she knew I needed her. This was what family was supposed to look like. I can do that, I said. I promise. True to her word, Sarah called on the morning of December 28th. I need you to sit down, she said. I was already sitting, but her tone made me grip the armrest of my chair. I've been going through everything. Caitlin, it's worse than we thought. How much worse? The total amount they've taken isn't $89,000. It's closer to $137,000. The number hit like a physical blow. That's almost everything Richard and I saved. I know. I'm sorry. But there's more. The transactions go back further than you realized. They started just 6 weeks after your husband died. Small amounts at first, 200 here, 300 there. Then they gradually increased. I closed my eyes. 6 weeks. While I'd been barely functional with grief, they'd been planning this. What else? Lillian has significant debt. Credit cards, personal loans, a car lease she couldn't afford. Before she married Gavin, she was drowning. Your son's income is decent, but not spectacular. He makes about $70,000 a year, not nearly enough to support the lifestyle they've been living. What lifestyle? Designer clothes, expensive dinners. I found charges to restaurants where the average meal is $200 per person. A trip to Turks and Caicos last spring. Another to Napa Valley in October. All paid for with your money from your accounts. My stomach churned. There's more, Sarah continued. I found the medical records. Or rather, I found evidence that someone claiming to be you visited Dr. Neil Thornton 4 times between September and November. I've never heard of Neil Thornton. He's a family practice doctor in Riverside, about 40 minutes from your house. According to his records, Caitlin Brennan came in complaining of memory problems, confusion, difficulty managing daily tasks. He prescribed medication for early-stage dementia. But I know, and we're going to prove it. I've already subpoenaed his records and requested copies of the sign-in sheets. If someone was impersonating you, there won't be a signature match. We might even get security footage if we're lucky. Who would have done that, Lillian? Most likely. She's about your height and build, roughly the same age range. With a wig and the right clothes, she could probably pass for you, especially at a clinic where they'd never met you before. But why go through all that? Because, Sarah said quietly, she needed documentation for the conservatorship petition. Medical evidence that you're declining. That you need someone to manage your affairs. The petition, have they filed it? Not yet, but I found something almost as damning. In Lillian's email, yes, I have access to some of her accounts. Don't ask how there's a draft petition. Dated December 20th. It requests emergency conservatorship due to rapidly declining mental state and immediate risk to herself and others. Risk what risk? According to the draft, you've been driving erratically, forgetting to take vital medications, and making threats of self-harm. That's insane. I know. It's all lies. But Caitlin, if they'd filed this on December 20th like they planned, you would have had a court hearing within 72 hours. And if the judge believed their evidence, the medical records, the supposed witnesses, you could have been under emergency conservatorship by Christmas Eve. The timeline clicked into place. The party, the lie about Aspen. They'd wanted me distracted, isolated. Maybe they'd been planning to file the petition while I was alone and upset when I'd be most vulnerable. Why didn't they file it? I don't know. My guess, they got cold feet at the last minute. Or maybe they decided to wait until after the holidays. Either way, we got lucky. You discovered what they were doing before they could pull the trigger. I sat there, my phone pressed to my ear, trying to process it all. This wasn't just theft. This was a coordinated, calculated plan to erase me. Sarah, I said slowly, what are my options? You have several. 1, you can file criminal charges for elder financial abuse, fraud, identity theft. 2, you can file a civil suit to recover the money. 3, you can do both. Or 4, you can take what we've found and use it as leverage to make them back off completely. What would you recommend? Sarah was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I'd recommend all of the above. File criminal charges that creates an official record and starts a real investigation. File the civil suit that freezes their assets and gives us legal leverage. And use the threat of public exposure to make them understand you're serious. Will I get the money back? Some of it probably. But that's not really the point, is it? This is about making sure they can never do this to you or anyone else again. She was right. This wasn't about money anymore. It was about survival, about dignity, about refusing to be erased. Do it, I said. All of it. File everything. Caitlin, once we start this, there's no going back. Your relationship with your son is already over, I finished. He ended it when he chose her over me. When he took my money and lied to my face. When he researched how to have me declared incompetent so he could steal the rest. My voice didn't waver. I'd cried all my tears on Christmas Eve. Now there was only resolution. I'll start the paperwork today, Sarah said. And Caitlin, for what it's worth, I think you're doing the right thing. After we hung up, I sat in the quiet of my living room. The Christmas tree was gone now. I'd taken it down the day after Christmas, unable to bear looking at it anymore. The house felt empty, but also somehow lighter, like I'd been carrying dead weight and had finally set it down. My phone buzzed. Another text from Gavin. Mom, please. We need to talk. This is getting ridiculous. Call me. Ridiculous. He thought this was ridiculous. I typed a response with steady fingers. My lawyer will be in contact soon. Do not come to my house. Do not call me. All future communication goes through legal counsel. I hit send before I could second-guess myself. 3 dots appeared immediately. He was typing. Then they stopped. Started again. Stopped. Finally, Mom, what lawyer? What are you talking about? I didn't respond. Instead, I blocked his number. Then Lillian's. The silence that followed felt like freedom. Daniel Whitmore saw me on December 29th, cutting his vacation short when Sarah called him personally. His office was downtown on the 14th floor of a steel and glass building that screamed expensive. I almost turned around when I saw it, convinced I couldn't afford whatever he was going to charge. But Sarah had insisted. He's the best elder law attorney in the state. If anyone can protect you, it's him. Mr. Whitmore was younger than I expected, maybe 50, with silver-threaded hair and sharp blue eyes that missed nothing. His handshake was firm, his manner professional, but warm. Mrs. Brennan, please sit. Sarah's briefed me on the situation. I've reviewed the documentation she sent over. I have to say this is one of the more egregious cases I've seen in recent years. How bad is it? Bad enough that I believe we can make criminal charges stick. The identity theft alone impersonating you at a medical facility to obtain fraudulent records, that's a felony. The financial exploitation, the forged documents, the attempt to establish conservatorship through fraud. Mrs. Brennan, your son and daughter-in-law have committed multiple serious crimes. Can we prove it? I believe so. The paper trail is extensive. Security footage from the doctor's office if it still exists. Bank records showing unauthorized access. Email evidence of their planning. And most importantly, we have you clearly competent, clearly capable with no actual medical issues to support their claims. He pulled out a legal pad. Of course he did. Everyone used legal pads. Here's what I propose. First, we file a restraining order, temporary just to establish boundaries while we sort this out. Second, we reverse all financial authorizations. Every account they have access to gets locked down. Third, we file for the return of your property. I blinked. What property? The house, the one you purchased for them. But I gave it to them. The deed is in their names. Mr. Whitmore smiled thinly. Yes, but the transfer was made under false pretenses. You gave them that house based on their representations that they would care for you, that you would remain part of their family, that this was a gift made in good faith within a loving relationship. They violated those terms. In legal terms, this is called constructive fraud. We can argue that the gift should be rescinded. Can we really do that? We can certainly try. And even if we don't succeed in court, the threat alone might be enough to bring them to the negotiating table. I don't want to negotiate, Mr. Dietz. Whitmore studied me for a long moment. Mrs. Brennan, I have to be honest with you. This is going to be ugly. Your son will likely hire his own attorney. There will be depositions, possibly a trial. Your private life will be examined. They'll try to paint you as vindictive, as an overbearing mother who's punishing her son for living his own life. Are you prepared for that? I thought about Richard, about the life we'd built together, about the money we'd saved dollar by dollar working overtime and skipping vacations and driving used cars so we'd be secure in our old age. I thought about Gavin as a little boy before Lillian, before the lies, the son I'd loved unconditionally. And then I thought about that party, about the bracelet from Cartier that was never given to me, about someone wearing my face to a doctor's office, about the nursing home reservation made in my name. I'm prepared, I said. Do whatever it takes. Mr. Whitmore nodded. Then let's get to work. We spent the next 3 hours going through everything. Every document, every transaction, every lie. By the time I left his office, I had copies of restraining order paperwork, a plan for filing criminal charges, and a court date for a preliminary hearing on the house. The elevator ride down felt different than the ride up. Lighter, clearer. I'd been afraid that fighting back would make me feel guilty, would make me feel like a bad mother. Instead, I felt like myself again for the first time in years. On December 30th, Gavin and Lillian received the restraining order paperwork. I knew this because at 3:47 p.m. someone started pounding on my door. I looked through the peephole. It was Gavin, his face red, his eyes wild. Behind him, Lillian stood with her arms crossed, her expression hard. "Mom!" he shouted. "Open this door right now. We need to talk." I stepped back from the door, my heart hammering. "Mrs. Brennan," a different voice. I looked out the window and saw a police car in my driveway. Officer Chen, the young cop who patrolled our neighborhood, stood on my lawn. "Are you okay in there?" "I'm fine," I called back. "But I have a restraining order against these people. They're not supposed to be here." Gavin's face went pale. "A restraining order, Mom? This is insane." "Sir," Officer Chen said firmly, "you need to leave the property immediately. If you have legal concerns, take them up with your attorney." "She's my mother. And she's filed legal documents stating she doesn't want contact with you. That's her right. Now leave, or I'll have to arrest you for violating the order." Lillian grabbed Gavin's arm, pulling him back. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but her mouth was moving rapidly, her expression furious. They left, but not before Gavin turned back one last time, his face crumpling. "Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "Please, I love you." I watched from behind my curtain as they got in their car and drove away. Officer Chen knocked gently on my door. "Mrs. Brennan, they're gone. Are you sure you're all right?" I opened the door. "I'm fine, thank you." He studied me carefully. Is there anyone who can stay with you tonight? Family, friends? My friend Diane is coming over soon. Good. He handed me his card. If they come back, call 911 immediately. Don't try to handle it yourself. Understand? I nodded, taking the card. After he left, I sat on my couch and let myself shake. Seeing Gavin like that, angry, desperate, afraid, it brought back every maternal instinct I'd ever had. Every urge to fix things, to make it better, to protect my child. But he wasn't a child anymore. He was a 32-year-old man who'd made choices. Bad choices. Criminal choices. And I couldn't save him from the consequences. Not this time. My phone rang. Diane. I'm on my way, she said. I heard about the restraining order. How are you holding up? They just showed up at my house. What, are they still there? No. Police came. They left. I took a shaky breath. Diane, he looked so hurt, like I'd betrayed him. Stop, Diane said firmly. Don't do that to yourself. He betrayed you. Multiple times. In multiple ways. You are not the villain here. I know, No. Listen to me. Tomorrow is New Year's Eve. Sarah told me they still don't know about the house sale, right? Right. Mr. Whitmore has the paperwork ready, but we haven't filed it yet. He wanted to time it for maximum impact. Good. So here's what we're going to do. Tomorrow night, you and I are going to have a quiet celebration. Just us. Some wine, some food, maybe watch the ball drop. And at midnight, when they're probably drunk at some party, we're going to toast to new beginnings. To you getting your life back. Can you do that? I smiled for the first time in days. Yes, I can do that. Good. Because, Caitlin, this is your year. 2024 is going to be the year you stopped being a victim and became a survivor. And I'm going to be right there with you every step of the way. After we hung up, I looked around my house. It was quiet, empty, but it was mine, all mine. And starting tomorrow, I was going to make sure it stayed that way. New Year's Eve arrived with the kind of cold that made your bones ache. I woke early 6 a.m., not because I'd set an alarm, but because I couldn't sleep. Today was the day everything changed. Diane arrived at noon with groceries and a bottle of champagne. Too early? She asked, holding it up. It's never too early for what we're celebrating. We spent the afternoon cooking together. Nothing fancy, just pasta and salad comfort food, but it felt good to be doing something normal. Something that wasn't legal paperwork or evidence documentation or planning my next defensive move. At 4 p.m., my phone rang. Mr. Whitmore. Everything's in place, he said. The paperwork has been filed. The house sale is final as of 2 hours ago. The new owners take possession on January 3rd. And Gavin and Lillian don't know yet, but they will, very soon. How soon? I've arranged for the sheriff to serve them notice at 6 p.m. They're having a New Year's Eve party according to their social media. Seemed like appropriate timing. I felt a flicker of something, not quite satisfaction, not quite revenge. Justice, maybe. Or just the cold comfort of knowing they were about to experience even a fraction of the shock I'd felt on Christmas Eve. There's one more thing, Mr. Whitmore continued. I took the liberty of having Sarah compile everything we found into a single document, a comprehensive timeline of their fraud. I thought you might want to see it, to understand the full scope. Send it over. The email arrived 5 minutes later. The PDF was 47 pages long. I sat at my kitchen table and read every word. Page 1, timeline, beginning February 3rd, 6 weeks after Richard died. First unauthorized withdrawal 200, labeled grocery assistance. Pages 2-8, detailed breakdown of every transaction. The amounts growing steadily, the lies becoming bolder. Pages 9 to 15, credit card statements. Lillian's personal spending on my accounts. $15,400 at Tiffany, $8,300 for Turks and Caicos, $3,200 at Nordstrom, $1,800 at a spa in Scottsdale. On and on and on. Pages 16 to 22, the medical fraud. Photocopies of the fake medical records. Notes from Caitlin Brennan's visits to Dr. Thornton. Patient reports increasing confusion and memory loss. Daughter-in-law reports patient has been leaving stove on getting lost, driving to familiar locations, forgetting family members' names. All lies. All manufactured. Pages 23-30, the conservatorship plan. Email exchanges between Lillian and a lawyer I'd never heard of. Draft petitions. Strategies for making me seem incompetent. Discussion of which nursing home would be least likely to allow unsupervised visits from problematic family members. That phrase stopped me cold. Problematic family members. That's what I was to them. Not a mother, not a person. A problem to be managed. Pages 31 to 40, Financial Analysis. Sarah had traced where my money went. Not just the obvious luxury purchases, but also $12,000 paying off Lillian's credit card debt. $8,000 for Gavin's car repairs. $15,000 toward Lillian's student loans. $6,500 for their furniture. $4,200 for their wedding honeymoon extension. They'd rebuilt their entire financial life with my money. While I worked extra shifts at the clinic at age 58. While I skipped meals to save grocery money. While I drove a 12-year-old car with a broken air conditioner. Pages 41 to 47, the house plan. Emails discussing the home equity loan. Lillian writing to a mortgage broker. The property is worth $650,000 now. We can pull out at least $200,000. She'll never know she doesn't even check these things. I closed the laptop. Diane had been reading over my shoulder. She put her hand on mine. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. "I know seeing it all laid out like that." "Don't be sorry." My voice was steady, calm, cold. I needed to see it, all of it, so I'd never doubt myself, never question whether I was overreacting. "You weren't overreacting." "No, I wasn't." At 6:15 p.m., my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "This is Sheriff's Deputy Morrison. Notice has been served to Gavin Brennan and Lillian Harper at 6:03 p.m. They've been informed of the property transfer and the pending criminal investigation. Just wanted you to know. Stay safe." I showed Diane the message. "It's done," I said. "It's done," she echoed. We stood there for a moment in my kitchen as the winter darkness pressed against the windows. Somewhere across town, Gavin and Lillian were reading those papers, learning that the house they thought was theirs had been sold out from under them, learning that they had 72 hours to vacate, learning that criminal charges were being filed, learning that I'd fought back. "Should we open the champagne?" Diane asked. "Not yet. Let's wait until midnight, until it's officially a new year." "What do you want to do until then?" I thought about it. "Tell me about your kids, your grandkids. Tell me about something good." So she did. For the next several hours, we sat in my living room and Diane told me stories about her daughter's new job, about her grandson's first word, about ordinary, beautiful, uncomplicated family love, the kind I'd thought I had, the kind I was learning to live without. At 11:47 p.m., my doorbell rang. Diane and I looked at each other. "They wouldn't," she said, "not with a restraining order." But they had. I looked through the peephole. Gavin stood on my porch alone this time. His eyes were red. His face was devastated. "Mom!" he called out, his voice cracking. "Please, I know you're in there. Please just talk to me." Diane pulled out her phone. "I'm calling the police." "Wait," I said. My hand hovered over the doorknob. Against every instinct, against all common sense, I opened the door. But I didn't step outside. I stood in the doorway, the threshold between us like a line drawn in sand. "You have 3 minutes, I said. "Then I'm calling the police myself." Gavin looked at me like he'd never seen me before. Maybe he hadn't. Maybe he'd only ever seen the version of me that said yes, that sacrificed, that enabled. "Mom, this is insane. Selling our house, filing criminal charges over what, a misunderstanding. A misunderstanding." I repeated the words, slowly tasting their absurdity. "Is that what you're calling fraud, identity theft, stealing over $100,000 from your widowed mother? We were going to pay you back." "Stop." The word came out sharper than I intended. Louder. "Stop lying. Stop pretending. I've seen everything, Gavin. Every email, every fake medical record, every plan you and Lillian made to have me declared incompetent and locked away." His face went white. "That wasn't we weren't actually going to. The nursing home reservation for February 1st says otherwise. That was just, we were just looking at options. In case you ever needed, I don't need anything, except for you to leave. Now." "Mom, please." He took a step forward. I took a step back. "I know we messed up. I know we made mistakes. But I'm your son. Doesn't that count for something?" And there it was. The question I'd been asking myself for weeks. "It used to," I said quietly. "Being my son used to mean everything. But you didn't want to be my son, Gavin. You wanted to be my heir." There's a difference. That's not fair. You lied to me on Christmas Eve. You threw a party and told me you were in Aspen. Do you have any idea how that felt? Sitting in my car watching you laugh through that window, realizing I'd been excluded from my own family. For the first time, something like shame crossed his face. That was Lillian's idea. She thought, I don't care whose idea it was. You went along with it. You always went along with it. Every theft, every lie, every cruelty. You let her do it, and that makes you just as guilty. She's my wife, and I was your mother. My voice broke on the last word. I was your mother, and you traded me in for money, for a house, for a lifestyle you couldn't afford. You traded me in like I was nothing. Tears were streaming down his face now. Mom, I'm sorry, I'm so sorry. Please, tell me how to fix this. I looked at my son, this man I'd raised, this person I'd loved more than anything in the world, and felt the full weight of my grief. You can't fix it, Gavin. This isn't a broken toy. This isn't something you can apologize your way out of. You committed crimes. Against me. Your own mother. And now you have to face the consequences. But I love you. No, I shook my head. You love what I could give you. You love the house I bought, the money I provided, the safety net I represented. But you don't love me. Because if you loved me, you would never have done any of this. Behind me, I heard Diane on the phone. Yes, officer. He's here now, violating the restraining order. Gavin heard it too. Mom, please, don't do this. Don't destroy our family over you destroyed our family. The words tore out of me. You destroyed it the day you chose her, the day you took my money, the day you planned to have me locked away so you could steal everything Dad and I spent our lives building. Sirens in the distance, getting closer. Gavin backed away from the door. I never wanted to hurt you. Then you shouldn't have spent a year trying to erase me. The police car pulled into my driveway. 2 officers got out. Sir, one of them called, step away from the residence. Gavin looked at me one last time. This isn't over, Mom. Yes, I said. It is. They led him away. I watched until the police car disappeared around the corner. Then I closed my door, locked it, and turned to find Diane standing with 2 champagne glasses. It's 11:59, she said. Want to watch the ball drop? We turned on the TV. New York, Times Square. Thousands of people celebrating confetti, falling couples kissing. The countdown began. 10, 9, 8. To new beginnings, Diane said, raising her glass. 7, 6, 5. To protecting yourself, I added. 4, 3, 2. To remembering that silence isn't weakness, we said together. 1. Happy New Year. We clinked our glasses and drank. In the background, people on TV were singing Auld Lang Syne, a song about old friendships, old memories, old loves. But I wasn't looking back anymore. I was looking forward. Moving day arrived cold and bright. I'd told myself I wouldn't go, that I'd stay home, let them deal with the consequences of their actions without making it worse by being there. Mr. Whitmore had advised against it. Let them move out without an audience, he'd said. Don't give them ammunition to claim you're harassing them. But at 8 a.m. on January 3rd, I found myself driving toward the house anyway. Not to gloat, not to confront them. I wasn't even sure why I was going. Maybe I needed to see it, to witness the ending of this chapter with my own eyes. I parked across the street just like I had on Christmas Eve. The same spot, the same view through the bay window. But everything else was different. A moving truck sat in the driveway, its back door open. 2 movers were carrying furniture out the couch. I'd helped them pick out the dining table we'd assembled together, all the pieces of the life I'd thought we were building. Lillian emerged from the front door carrying a box. She wore sunglasses despite the morning gloom, her hair pulled back, her face tight and closed. She looked smaller somehow, diminished. She saw my car immediately, froze for a moment. Then she set the box down and walked straight toward me. I rolled down my window. Come to watch film, she said. Her voice was acid. Enjoying the show. Where's Gavin? Inside, packing up the last of our life, the life you destroyed. I destroyed? The audacity of it stole my breath. Lillian, you stole from me. You impersonated me. You tried to have me declared incompetent. We were trying to help you. Help me into a nursing home I didn't need. Help me out of money I'd earned. Help me out of my own life. Lillian's jaw tightened. You don't understand. You've never understood. Gavin and I were building something. A future. A family. And you, she gestured vaguely. You were just always there. Needing things. Needing attention. Needing to be included in everything. I'm his mother. You were suffocating him. The words exploded out of her. Every Sunday dinner, every phone call, every request for help. You made yourself so necessary that he couldn't breathe without feeling guilty. We couldn't have a life without you hovering over it. I stared at her. This woman who'd smiled at me across Thanksgiving tables, who'd hugged me at the house closing, who'd called me Mom with such apparent warmth. So you decided to erase me, I said softly. To take my money, take my house, take my dignity, and lock me away where I couldn't be an inconvenience anymore. We were going to take care of you. In a memory care facility I didn't need. With money you'd stolen, while living in a house I bought. Lillian, do you even hear yourself? For a moment something flickered in her expression. Not quite guilt. Maybe just the realization that she'd been caught. That the game was over. You're going to regret this, she said finally. When you're old and alone and Gavin won't speak to you. When you have no one. You'll regret choosing this. I didn't choose this. You did. Every time you lied. Every time you stole. Every time you convinced my son I was a burden instead of his mother. The front door opened. Gavin stepped out carrying a large framed photo, the one from their wedding. He stopped when he saw me. For a long moment we just looked at each other, mother and son, across a chasm that couldn't be bridged by apologies or explanations. He walked down the driveway slowly like he was approaching something fragile, something dangerous. You really came, he said. I needed to see it, to know it was real. It's real. His voice was hollow. We have to be out by noon. The new owners, he gestured helplessly. They're moving in this afternoon, with their kids. I saw them yesterday, they're excited. The kids were running around the backyard planning where to put a swing set. Something in his voice made me look at him more carefully. He looked terrible. Hadn't shaved, probably hadn't slept. His eyes were haunted. Mom, he said quietly, I need you to know something. About Lillian. About all of this. Lillian stiffened. Gavin, don't... She's right, he continued, ignoring her. About most of it. I knew what she was doing. Not all of it, I swear I didn't know about the medical fraud or the nursing home. But the money... He swallowed hard. I knew she was taking money from your accounts. She told me you'd approved it, that you wanted to help us. And I believed her because I wanted to believe her. Gavin, Lillian's voice was sharp now, warning. I wanted to believe her, he repeated, because it was easier than admitting we couldn't afford the life we were living. Easier than telling her no. Easier than being a man instead of... He looked down. Instead of whatever I became. You became her accomplice, I said. Not cruel, just factual. Yeah, I did. He met my eyes. And I'm sorry. I know that doesn't fix anything. I know you probably hate me, but I need you to know I'm sorry. Lillian grabbed his arm. Stop apologizing to her. She's the one who... No! Gavin pulled away from her. Stop it, Lillian. Just stop. We did this. We destroyed this. Not her. She sold our house. It wasn't our house. It was hers. She bought it. We just took it, like we took everything else. Lillian's face went red. I can't believe you're doing this. After everything I've done for you. Done for me? Gavin laughed, but there was no humor in it. You convinced me to steal from my own mother. You forged medical documents in her name. You planned to have her locked up. What exactly did you do for me? The silence that followed was brutal. Lillian looked between us, her expression shifting from anger to calculation to something like panic. Fine, she said finally. Fine. Blame me. Make me the villain. But Gavin, remember this, when your mother dies alone in 10 years, when you have no family left, when you realize what you've lost, that's on you, not me. She turned and walked back to the house, her heels clicking sharp against the pavement. Gavin watched her go. Then he turned back to me. I'm leaving her, he said. I should have left her a long time ago, but I'm leaving her now. I wanted to feel relief, satisfaction, something, but I only felt tired. Good, I said. But Gavin, that doesn't change what you did. Leaving her doesn't erase the past year. I know. The criminal charges are still going forward, against both of you. I know. And I paused, my throat tight. I don't know if I can ever trust you again. His face crumpled. I understand. Maybe someday, I said carefully. Maybe years from now, after you've gotten your life together, after you've proven you're different. Maybe we can try. But not now. Not yet. How long? I don't know. Maybe a long time. Maybe never. I need you to accept that possibility. He nodded slowly, tears streaming down his face. Can I ask you one thing? Did you ever really love me, or was I always just another responsibility? The question pierced me, because it told me how thoroughly Lillian had poisoned his perception of our relationship, how deeply she'd convinced him that my love was burden, not blessing. I loved you from the moment you were born, I said, my own tears starting now. I loved you when you were 3 and broke your arm falling off the swing. I loved you when you were 16 and wrecked my car. I loved you when you called me crying at 2 a.m. during your first year of college because you were homesick. I loved you at your wedding, even though I could see she was wrong for you. I loved you on Christmas Eve when you lied to me. I loved you yesterday when you were arrested for violating the restraining order. I took a shaky breath. I still love you now. But Gavin, loving you doesn't mean sacrificing myself. It doesn't mean letting you destroy me. Those are different things, and I'm finally old enough to know the difference. He stood there, the morning sun behind him, looking young and lost and broken. I'm so sorry, Mom, he whispered. I know you are, and maybe that's enough for you to build a better life. I hope it is. I really do. A car pulled up behind me, a young couple with 2 kids in car seats, the new owners. That's my cue, I said. Goodbye, Gavin. Goodbye, Mom. I drove away without looking back. In my rearview mirror, I saw him standing in the driveway, still holding that wedding photo, watching me leave. And I let myself cry. Not for the son I'd lost, he'd been gone for a long time, but for the son I'd thought I had. The one who'd existed before Lillian, before greed, before lies. That boy was gone. Had maybe never existed the way I remembered him. And I needed to mourn him before I could move on. December 24th, 2024. Exactly 1 year after the text message that changed everything. I stood in my small apartment, not the house I'd shared with Richard, which I'd sold in March, but a cozy 2-bedroom condo closer to downtown, and looked at my Christmas tree. It was smaller than my old tree, but it was mine. I'd bought new ornaments. Nothing from the past. Fresh starts deserved fresh decorations. Diane knocked at my door at 6 p.m. right on time. She'd become a permanent fixture in my life this year. Not just a friend, but family. The real kind. Merry Christmas Eve, she said, handing me a bottle of wine and a gift bag. You weren't supposed to bring anything. It's just a little something. Inside the bag was a framed photo, Diane and me at a concert we'd gone to in July. Both of us laughing, carefree, alive. I love it, I said, my eyes stinging. I thought you could use a new photo for your wall, one with actual happy memories. We settled on my couch with wine and the takeout Chinese food I'd ordered. No turkey this year. No elaborate meal. Just simple, easy, comfortable. Have you heard from him? Diane asked carefully. She didn't need to specify who. There was only one him that mattered. He sends letters, I said, through his lawyer, once a month, updating me on his life. He's working as a teacher now, elementary school. The fraud charges were reduced to misdemeanors because he cooperated fully with the investigation. Probation and restitution, but no jail time. And her, Lillian, got 18 months. Wire fraud, identity theft, elder abuse. She's in a minimum security facility in Oregon. Good. The divorce was final in August. He had to give her half of what little they had left, which was basically nothing, since most of their assets were seized to pay me back. I got about $60,000. Not everything, but enough. Do you read his letters? I hesitated. Sometimes. Not always. Some days I can. Some days I can't. Has he asked to see you? Every letter. I haven't responded yet. Do you think you will? I looked at the tree, at the new ornaments catching the light. Maybe, I said. Someday. When I'm ready. But Diane, I'm learning something important this year. What's that? I'm learning that I don't have to forgive someone just because they're family, that I don't owe anyone my suffering, that protecting myself isn't selfish, it's necessary. Amen to that. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, then curiosity got the better of me. Mrs. Brennan, this is Emma Chen. We bought the house from your son last year. I know this is random, but my daughter found something in the attic today, a box of old photos and some letters. They have your name on them. Would you like us to drop them off sometime? We're at 2847 Maple Drive if you want to pick them up. Merry Christmas. I showed Diane the message. Do you want to? She asked. Want to what? Go get them. The photos. See the house again. I thought about it. That house. The one I'd bought with love and lost to lies. Yeah, I said slowly. I think I do. 20 minutes later, we pulled up in front of 2847 Maple Drive. The house looked different. Better somehow. There were toys in the yard. A bike on the porch. Christmas lights strung carefully along the roof, not the expensive kind Lillian had insisted on, but the cheerful, slightly chaotic kind that said kids helped. Emma answered the door with a smile. She was younger than me, maybe 35, with paint in her hair and a baby on her hip. Mrs. Brennan, thank you for coming. Come in, come in. The inside had changed too. The marble countertops were gone, replaced with butcher block. The formal dining room was now a play area with a miniature kitchen and blocks everywhere. The walls that had been beige were now bright yellow and blue. It looked like a home, not a showcase. A real lived-in, loved-in home. The photos are in the kitchen, Emma said, leading us through. I hope you don't mind we looked through them. They're beautiful. Are these your parents? She handed me the box. Inside were pictures I'd forgotten I'd stored there. My parents on their wedding day. Richard and me when we were young. Gavin as a baby, chubby and laughing. Letters too. Love letters Richard had written me during his deployment. Birthday cards from my mother. A Father's Day card Gavin had made in 2nd grade, covered in glitter and misspellings. To the best mom ever, I love you more than video games. I felt tears coming and didn't fight them. Thank you, I told Emma, for keeping these safe. Of course. I hope you don't mind me saying, but whatever happened with the previous owners, whatever situation led to us getting this house, I'm grateful. My kids are so happy here. We're making so many memories. She gestured to a photo on the wall, her family on Halloween, the kids dressed as superheroes, everyone grinning. That's what homes are for, I said. Memories, love, family. I'm glad you have that here. As we walked back to the car, box in hand, I looked back at the house one last time. You okay? Diane asked. Yeah, I said. I really am. That house. It's not mine anymore, but it's loved, and that's enough. We drove back to my apartment in comfortable silence. Inside, I placed the box on my coffee table and carefully went through each photo, each letter. I spent so long thinking I'd failed, I said. As a mother, as a wife, as a person. Because how could I have raised someone who'd do those things? How could I have been so blind? You weren't blind, you were trusting. There's a difference. I know that now, and I know something else too. I held up the Father's Day card, that glittery mess of childhood love. The boy who made this, he was real. I didn't imagine him. I didn't make him up. He existed. What happened to him? He grew up. He made bad choices. He let someone poison him against me, but that doesn't erase who he was. And maybe, I paused, maybe someday he'll find his way back to being that person. And if he does, if he really changes, really grows, maybe I'll be ready to let him try. And if he doesn't, then I'll still be okay, because I've learned the most important lesson: I don't need him to be complete. I don't need anyone's validation or approval or love to be whole. I'm enough on my own. Diane raised her wine glass. To being enough. To being enough, I echoed. We sat there as the evening deepened, watching my tree lights twinkle, telling stories about the year that had passed. About the cruise Diane and I had taken to Alaska. About the book club I'd joined. About the part-time volunteer work I'd started at the women's shelter, helping other women escape financial abuse. At 11:30, Diane's phone rang, her daughter calling to wish her Merry Christmas. I listened to their conversation, warm, easy, full of love, and felt no jealousy. Just contentment. The understanding that I had my own life now, my own people, my own purpose. After Diane left at midnight, I sat alone in my apartment. Alone, but not lonely. I thought about sending Gavin a message, a simple Merry Christmas, an olive branch, small but significant. My fingers hovered over my phone, but I wasn't ready. Not yet. Maybe next year, maybe in 2 years, maybe never. And that was okay. I looked at the Father's Day card one more time, that precious artifact of a simpler time, then carefully placed it back in the box and closed the lid. Some memories were meant to be treasured, not lived in, but remembered, honored for what they were, then gently set aside so you could keep moving forward. I walked to my bedroom where I'd hung the photo Diane gave me, the two of us laughing at that concert. Proof that family wasn't always blood, that love didn't have to hurt, that starting over wasn't the same as giving up. As I turned off the lights, I whispered into the darkness. They thought silence meant weakness. They thought quiet meant defeated. But they were wrong. I smiled, feeling stronger and more at peace than I had in years. Because the quietest storms are the ones that change everything. And I was the storm they never saw coming. I closed my eyes and for the first time in exactly 1 year, slept through the entire night. Dreamless, peaceful, free. 3 years later, December 2027. The coffee shop was crowded with the pre-Christmas rush. I sat in my usual corner grading papers from my ESL students. I'd gone back to school, gotten my teaching certificate, found purpose in helping immigrants learn English when someone cleared their throat above me. I looked up. Gavin stood there, older somehow, thinner, his hair starting to gray at the temples like his father's had. "Hi, Mom," he said quietly. My heart stuttered. We'd exchanged a few emails over the past year. Brief, careful, building trust millimeter by millimeter. But we hadn't seen each other face to face since that moving day 3 years ago. "Hi," I managed. "I was hoping. The email said you came here on Thursdays. I took a chance. Can I sit just for a minute?" I gestured to the empty chair. He sat, hands wrapped around a coffee cup he'd brought with him, not quite meeting my eyes. "I'm teaching at Lincoln Elementary now," he said. "4th grade. I love it. The kids they're good. Pure. Before the world gets complicated. That's good. I'm in therapy. Have been for 2 years. Dealing with a lot of stuff. About Dad. About Lillian. About who I became. That's good too. Silence. Not uncomfortable, but heavy with 3 years of distance. I don't expect you to forgive me," he said finally. "I don't even know if I deserve the chance to ask. But I wanted you to know I'm different now. Really different. Not just saying it. I studied him. Looked for the boy I'd raised. For the man who'd betrayed me. For whoever this person was now. I see you volunteer at the women's shelter," he continued. "Ms. Patterson mentioned it. She's a parent at my school. Said you helped her sister escape an abusive situation. I wanted you to know I'm proud of you. For building that kind of life. For helping people." Something in my chest loosened slightly. "Thank you," I said. "Would you?" He stopped, started again. "Would you maybe want to get coffee sometime? Real coffee, not just running into each other. I know I don't have the right to ask, but maybe we could try. Slowly, no expectations." I thought about it. About the woman I'd been 3 years ago, destroyed on Christmas Eve. About the woman I'd become stronger, clearer, more myself than I'd ever been. About whether I had room in that new life for him. "Maybe," I said finally. "But Gavin, if we do this, we do it on my terms. Slow, careful. And the second I feel like I'm being used or manipulated or taken advantage of, I'm gone. I understand." "Do you?" "Yeah, Mom, I really do." He met my eyes for the first time. "I lost everything 3 years ago. Everything. And I deserved to. But losing you was the worst part. If I get even a fraction of a chance to earn back a fraction of your trust, I won't waste it." I nodded slowly. "Okay, then maybe coffee. Next month. We'll see how it goes." His face broke into the first genuine smile I'd seen from him in years. Not manipulative, not calculated, just real. "Thank you," he whispered. "Thank you for not giving up on me completely." "I gave up on who you were," I said. "But maybe I'm willing to meet who you're becoming." He left a few minutes later, and I returned to my papers. Diane called that evening. I heard Gavin showed up at the coffee shop. News travels fast. Small world. How was it? Weird, sad, but also maybe okay, I don't know yet. You don't have to know yet. You get to take your time. I know. That's what I'm learning. I get to set the pace. I get to decide. And if it doesn't work, I trailed off. Then you're still okay, Diane finished. Because you've built a life that doesn't require him. Exactly. That night I pulled out the box of old photos one more time. Looked at that Father's Day card. To the best mom ever. I love you more than video games. Maybe that boy could come back. Maybe not. Either way, I'd survived his absence. I'd learned to thrive without him. And if he wanted to be part of my life again, he'd have to earn it. Not with apologies, with actions, with years of proving he'd changed. And I'd watch, carefully, hopefully, but also ready to walk away if needed. Because I'd learned the most important lesson. Silence wasn't weakness. Quiet didn't mean defeated. And sometimes the strongest thing a woman could do was protect herself even from the people she loved most. I put the card away, turned off the lights, and went to bed. Tomorrow was another day, another chance, another moment in a life I'd fought hard to reclaim. And whatever happened with Gavin, whether we rebuilt something or whether I had to let him go forever, I knew one thing for certain: I would be okay. Because I'd stopped being a footnote in someone else's story. I was the author now, and my story was far from over.